Hello guys, new microphone today, so hopefully things will be a bit clearer. I've actually had this microphone for a while, but it's not been set up, so I bought an arm and decent headphones and everything. Anyway, hopefully this is a bit higher quality than previously. So what I'm going to be talking about today, just briefly, is a very serious omission from Poser 12 and something that was taken out of Poser 11. And what I'm talking about is Poser Fusion. So Poser Fusion is an interface that enabled you to run an instance of Poser within other programs. So here's a scene in Poser, and what you would do is you'd run Poser Fusion and Poser Fusion installed into the other application. So in this particular case, it would be 3D Studio Max, for example, and it would run as a plugin in 3D Studio Max. So this is not the same scene run using the Poser Fusion plugin. What used to happen was you'd install it, and then here, I would be able to change the type here to Poser scene, and then I could run a Poser scene within 3D Studio Max. But what was special about it was that the plugin, you would point the plugin at whatever Poser runtime you were using, and the plugin would run within 3D Studio Max. And what that meant was that your textures and everything would be live within Poser. At the moment, if I import something into Poser using Collada or as an OBJ or some other export format, I then have to manually point to every single texture. But even worse than that, and that can take 15-20 minutes on a scene like this, but even worse than that is that if I now make an update to this scene, so this is imported as an OBJ, and if I now make a change to this scene in my original scene, let's go back to my original Poser scene here. If I now make a change to this scene, because it's exported as an OBJ to 3D Studio Max, the OBJ has no connection back to this scene. Whereas with the Poser Fusion plugin, what used to happen was your Fusion plugin used to connect in 3D Studio Max, which here, it would connect to 3D Studio Max, and then you'd have an option in the plugin that just said update, and it would just update the scene to whatever the latest changes were. So this omission, this deletion from Poser is absolutely immense for anybody who wants to use Poser in another program. Now, why might you want to do that? Well, for example, you might want to build props that work around your figures, or you might want to use a better rendering engine. For example, supposing you've got a faster rendering engine outside of Poser, or one that's more realistic, you might want to use that. Or perhaps you might want to animate in another program. So removing Poser Fusion, and here's something that really annoys me, is that not only did they not include it in Poser 12, but they deleted it from Poser 11. So if you didn't download it, from Poser 11 when you bought it from Smith Micro, you don't have access to it now. And really, you know, I understand what Bondware are doing. What they did was they killed the Poser Pro moniker. So originally, when there was Poser 11, you had Poser 11 and Poser 11 Pro, and the Poser Pro version was about £500, and then the regular version was £200. Now, if they had maintained the development on it, I think £200 was reasonable, but £400 was always massively overpriced. But what they wanted to do, Bondware wanted to do, was to make Poser into a hobbyist program and an illustrator program rather than a professional program. So they took out one of the features that enabled it to be used in a professional workspace. I personally think that was really silly, because there's a lot of people like me who, I mean, I guess by the definition of the word professional, i.e. you make money from Poser, then I'm a professional. But I'm not a professional like a game designer or a major league illustrator or anything like that. But I still like to use 3D Studio, and I'm probably going to move over to Blender. So taking away the ability for Poser to work live within these programs was a massive piece of short-sightedness in my opinion. Now, this is something that I've been meaning to talk about for a while, but I'm using this to precursor another video that I'm about to make. So you need to understand this omission first of all before you'll understand the context of the other video. So now I'm just going to leave, and hopefully you'll see the other video as well, and it will make a bit more sense.